Had told me you were the most beautiful woman that he'd ever met. I didn't expect the most beautiful woman I'd ever met. Oh, I'm a lot like you. Just looking for an ass to mouth.
What's up, guys? Spenny. It's amazing how living a duplicitous and corrupt life will eventually weigh on a person and really change them, especially if there's somebody that the American public knows, right? We were able to watch how the presidency just collapsed Joe Biden. He could barely walk by the end of it. There's a famous video of Joe Biden having to be carried into the Secret Service vehicle by Secret Service. Just a shell of the man that we once knew. Now there's a viral clip of a very, very frail, very strange-looking George Clooney wobbling backstage into his off-Broadway show, right? Refusing to shake a fan's hand as he sort of very gauntly stumbles into the theater. You can see here, just totally unrecognizable. Bill Clinton kind of looks the same way. Life of crime stuff, you know? George Clooney says that he's winding down his acting career, and he's going to focus on his family, you see, and his wife. Okay, fine, smart. George Clooney is on the wrong side of 60, obviously, pushing 70. His career is completely over, of course. He hasn't had a good movie in a very, very long time. This is actor speak for he's not getting any offers. People aren't listening to his political opinions. Obviously, he's the person who was used to sabotage Joe Biden by Barack Obama. Apparently, that's led to a crash out between George Clooney and Barack Obama. Remember the New York Times op-ed dragging George Clooney directly into the political ecosystem and ruining the vibe entirely. It was just gross. The whole thing was just Machiavellian and gross and awful. Anyway, he hasn't had a good movie in a very long time. You can see his Rotten Tomato scores are just in total and complete collapse. George Clooney says he's winding down his film career so he can spend more time with his children. He doesn't need to worry. His films are already doing this for him. Obviously, nobody watches a George Clooney movie anymore. Quentin Tarantino says he's not a movie star, that nobody goes and buys a ticket to go see George Clooney. Do you know what I mean? And that makes a lot of sense. But now we're finding out that there might be another motivation behind all of this, given the fact that there is still a pretty intense interest in Jeffrey Epstein and what happened with Epstein and his Hollywood buddies. Virginia Giuffre's memoir, remember Virginia Giuffre said, "I'm not suicidal. There are a lot of evil people that want to, I know too much. There's a lot of evil people that want to see me gone. I'm not suicidal. Please know that if anything happens to me, that, keep my memory alive," she says in a tweet. And then just months later, she gets hit by a bus. This is the official story, okay? She gets hit by a bus in the middle of the Australian outback, one of the most remote places in the world. The bus driver doesn't stop or ever get charged. Nobody ever explains how she got hit by a bus. She winds up in the hospital and then dies of suicide days later. From the hospital, she records a video saying, "I'm going to die soon." Her own father says that she was suicided, and her own lawyer says the same thing. So I'm just giving you what is available out there. There is now a memoir that is being trickled out from Virginia Giuffre. Of course, why do we care? Well, because she was the sex slave of Jeffrey Epstein for the better part of 2 decades. Allegedly had sex with Prince Andrew. That's leading to a lot of fallout with the royal family, and sort of had a front row seat to the Epstein universe and world. Boy, there wouldn't have been a better person to have put in a seat to talk to Congress or the media about what Jeffrey Epstein was actually doing. Virginia Giuffre constantly talks about Donald Trump in the best possible light, too. This is also probably why they needed her killed. She talks about Donald Trump, saying that he was nothing but a gentleman, never did anything wrong, never did anything sordid. She has a lot of other words for guys like Bill Clinton. The memoir of Virginia Giuffre recounts being groomed as a teenager and sexually exploited by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, writing that the abuse included rape by an unnamed prime minister. Name the prime minister, please. And encounters with powerful men such as Bill Clinton. The book, Nobody's Girl, a memoir for surviving abuse and surviving justice, was released on Tuesday and garnered global attention. While it made no explicit allegations against Clinton or Trump, Giuffre did chronicle meetings with both in context not related to the Epstein crimes. The story, Giuffre recounts how she ended up how she got sucked into Epstein and Maxwell's high-powered orbit, how her father helped her get a job at Mar-a-Lago, where she was stolen by Jeffrey Epstein. Giuffre's discussions of Trump in the book largely place him in the background figure. Early days of Mar-a-Lago said he was a perfect gentleman. But here's something else that she's brought into the fray. George Clooney and the Pritzker family. Democrat Tom Pritzker and Democrat George Clooney are now featured in Virginia Giuffre's memoir. Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell claim Trump is innocent. This is not going to work out for the left. Oh boy, what does she say exactly? George Clooney accused of sex act with Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh boy. What is this? George Clooney was sensationally accused of a sex act with ex-lover of Prince Andrew's pedo pal, Jeffrey Epstein. The star is dragged into the scandal after this Ghislaine Maxwell, who's accused of recruiting young girls, U.S. financial perv, is claimed to have boasted about performing a sex act on George Clooney. He is named in the Virginia Giuffre manuscript of her memoirs, released to New York court. Virginia says socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, who's currently in federal custody, boasted about it during a globe-trotting trip that they made with Maxwell in 2001, which culminated in her meeting Prince Andrew for the first time in London. Virginia wrote, always the instigator of a good joke, but unable to take one herself, she didn't like it when people poked back at her recent taste in men, since she loved to brag about her rendezvous with various lovers. Once she came back giddy as a schoolgirl with an explosion of news, with all of the buildup and excitement in her voice, saying that she was the next crown princess. She claimed to have given George Clooney a blowjob in the bathroom of some random event. She never let that one down. Is the reason why George Clooney is retiring? Who knows? It is not known. It is not known when the alleged incident took place. Clooney. There's no suggestion that Clooney was involved in underage sex or parties held by the billionaire Epstein. Lawyers for both sides said that it was fictionalized. It was released on Friday in documents Prince Andrew. Representative for Clooney, now married to Amal Clooney, 41, have failed to comment here. Okay. So that's what they're saying. George Clooney caught up in the Epstein sex scandal. Not the only Hollywood actor, by the way. Kevin Spacey, who arguably was, there were eras when Kevin Spacey was way more powerful and popular than George Clooney, just straight up admitted that there were young girls on the aircraft flying, crisscrossing the globe, that Jeffrey Epstein was constantly using Hollywood actors inside of the zeitgeist in order to have compromise on them. Is that what the Ghislaine Maxwell story is all about? I don't know. But here's Kevin Spacey just straight up admitting it.
I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights?
There were young girls on those flights, yeah. And that's been out. They've talked about it. But here's my point. There's a big difference between not remembering that I met some guy and some woman on a humanitarian trip where my focus was entirely on what we were there to do, and not remembering whether I went to somebody's island. So I never went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. I did not know him, and I never saw him or her after that morning at Buckingham Palace. He didn't even come to Buckingham Palace.
Is it true that Prince Andrew sought your assistance and wanted you to testify that Ghislaine Maxwell was your guest, not his, during that Buckingham Palace tour?
I heard a report about that, but at no time did anyone ever contact me on his behalf. And as I say, I'm not friends with him. I never saw him after that day.
What do you think about what's happened to him?
I don't know anything about it. It's not, I'm not going to talk about someone else's scandal, you know.
So I don't know the actual truth here. I just know that there's a lot of powerful people who wanted Virginia Giuffre to be dead, to be gone, and that her memoir to not be released and for her to not be able to testify before Congress and the American people about what was actually going on here. She was the only other like truly trusted voice here. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder that that Kevin Spacey clip was backed up by one of the Epstein victims in front of Congress right here.
I was going to ask you, the White House has said that this citizen discharge resolution is a very hostile act. What's your response to it?
I'll go first and then I'll let them. They're much more important than me, but I don't understand why it's a hostile act. I can tell you that I talked to President Trump back in 2009, and several times after that. He didn't think that it was a hoax then. In fact, he helped me. He got on the phone. He told me things that were helping our investigation. Now, our investigation wasn't looking into him, but he was helping us then. He didn't treat this as a hoax. So at this point in time, I would hope that he would revert back to what he was saying to get elected, which is, I want transparency. This about face that occurred, none of us understand it. In fact, I don't understand how this is an issue that's even up for debate. How do you not stand behind these women after you've heard their stories and know that hundreds of them were abused, and it was only because files are being kept in secrecy? The world should know who he is, who protected him, and the other people that are out there to be investigated need to be investigated.